Well done is better than well said. Who said it? Benjamin Franklin said it. Welcome back to another episode of the Make It to Midnight podcast. I'm your host, JP Hovey. Thank you guys for being here. If you are new here, if you're not new here, but you're tapping back in for the first time in a few months, please go back, watch the other episodes. They've been awesome. My last episode I posted, it was with college football juggernaut media personality, JD Piquel, and it was an amazing conversation. The week before that was with my guy Tyler Olson, where he talked about a life-changing injury, and it was just incredible. So welcome to episode 33. That was a quote from Benjamin Franklin, and that is who we're going to be talking about today because I've been reading his biography by Walter Isaacson. If you don't know who Walter Isaacson is, check him out. He wrote Steve Jobs' book. He wrote Elon Musk's book. He's written Benjamin Franklin's biography. He tackles some of the most prominent figures in the history of the world, writes their biography, and tells it in a way it feels like you are in the room with them. And now I've been reading this book for the last probably 2 or 3 months, and I feel like every single time I end a chapter, I want to pick up the phone and call my dad or tell my wife or tell somebody about how insane of a life's journey Benjamin Franklin had. So I'm going to share with you guys. I'm not done with it yet. I'm only halfway through. So this will be part 1 of the Benjamin Franklin biography breakdown. Obviously, a lot of us know who Benjamin Franklin is. We learned about him in school, U.S. history. He's a founding father. Maybe he's most well known for being a founding father and probably for his discoveries within electricity. And that is why this book has been so fascinating to me, because I just knew him as those people kind of, and I didn't know the full story behind him and how much of America, the fabric of present day America, can be traced back to the things Benjamin Franklin was doing when he first moved to Philadelphia at 17 years old. And one of the reasons I love this story about Benjamin Franklin is because so much of America can find themselves in him. He comes from a pretty low income, maybe it's probably lower middle income family. His dad was just a candle maker and soap boiler. So Benjamin Franklin did not grow up with privilege, to say the least. He grew up doing a whole lot of chores, doing a whole lot of work around the house, and he also did not have very much of an education. He was pretty much self-taught. Now we have YouTube University. Benjamin Franklin was doing that, but all the way back in the 1700s. He's one of the first self-made, self-taught, prominent figures in American history. And he always knew that he was going to be destined for more. When he became an apprentice, he started working at the print shop with his older brother. But ultimately, egos prevailed, and he ends up moving to Philadelphia at 17 years old by himself, doesn't know anybody, zero connections. And in his book, he even talks about it where he says he shows up walking through the streets, holding bread in his hands, chewing as he goes, looking like a complete nobody. People are staring at him. He looks ridiculous. And what's crazy is that nobody walking into Philadelphia in 1723 realizes that that is about to become Benjamin Franklin. And he's not going to become Benjamin Franklin because of luck or privilege. He's going to become Benjamin Franklin because of how he treated his life like a project. He is one of the most curious individuals of all time. So think about it already. Benjamin Franklin moved to a new city at 17 years old with no job, no connections, but he had some talents. His talent was in the print shop. So what does he do? He decides, I'm going to go up to a print shop and I'm going to add value. So he was able to get an opportunity at the print shop with a guy named Samuel Kaiser. I believe that is how you say his last name. Not Kaiser, Keimer, Samuel Keimer. And this is when he was 17. He starts working at this print shop, starts learning more. And before this, he had already kind of figured out that words have so much influence in this world. Now remember, Benjamin Franklin, he's a founding father. He's a part of the Declaration of Independence. Words mean everything. When he was 16, he created this alter ego called Silence Dogood, where he would write about different things going on in Boston, and he was finding out that through this alter ego, he was able to get people's attention, gain influence, even though this was a fictional character. But he was putting it into words so that he could be taken more serious as just a 14-year-old who's working in the print business. But the lesson in this early part, when you show up somewhere new, I saw it in my life. You see it in your life. He didn't show up immediately trying to network and meet people. He showed up trying to add value to somebody, and he understood where his value was coming from. It only took about a year and a half for Benjamin Franklin to make one of his bigger connections, and it was Governor Keith, the governor of Pennsylvania. And the guy took a liking to him. He told him, hey, go over to London. I'll pay for it. It's on my credit line. Go learn more about the print business, figure out how it works there. Because at the time, the U.S., well, it's not even the U.S., but they were hoping to establish more of a postal system, more publication systems, but it was still a new colony, and they didn't really know how to do it. So he sends Benjamin Franklin over, and on the boat ride over, remember, he's 18 years old. On the boat ride over, he's speaking with somebody, and the guy's like, oh, no, Governor Keith is not good for that money. He's actually broke, and you better figure it out when you get there. 18 years old, halfway across the Atlantic Ocean, and he gets told that. But what does Benjamin Franklin do? He shows up in London. He learns that all of those things is true, and he's going to have to make it shake. So he decides to go work, intern, be an apprentice at a London print shop, continue to gain knowledge, continue to learn what's going to be valuable to the United States. And when he's 20 years old, he returns. And that was also his first time traveling. And later on in Benjamin Franklin's life, he will eventually cross the Atlantic Ocean over 8 times. The story of Benjamin Franklin, it shows how much we are capable of in so many different realms. So many times we box ourselves in, shows the importance of travel. But I'm going to get to all that. I'm getting ahead of myself. But every time I say it out loud, it just fascinates me that much more. So he's clearly a master networker. He's clearly ambitious. He clearly knows how to add value. And then when he returns to Philadelphia, when he is 21 years old, he creates what today we would call a mastermind. He was doing this back in 1727, creating mastermind groups. And this is called the Junto. And I love it because the reason I love it is because of all of these rules that were in place. And I feel like it would be so beneficial if the leaders of this country or people aspiring to be leaders went back to these types of meetings, because these are some of the things. It was a room of young tradesmen meeting weekly to discuss the following: morality, philosophy, business, community problems, and personal growth. But the rules, and this is what the world needs to take into account now, the rules were this. It was all built on character. No gossip, no slander, no pointless arguments. You speak with humility, and conversations must be useful, not divisive. Here's an example of 5 of the questions. Listen to these 5 questions, answer it in your life, and watch what it can do. Have these conversations with your friends. You're going to go so deep. You're going to learn so much, and it could help change your views, which is another big part of Ben Franklin. Throughout his life, he is changing his views. He's documenting his views, seeing how he changes from year to year, and it is a masterpiece in how to self-improve. But these are the 5 questions that they would ask in the Junto. Have you met with anything in history or modern affairs that is useful for us to know? Have you been studying, basically? What have you noticed going on in the world, going on in the past that could help us right now? Is there any citizen whose situation deserves our compassion, and how can we help? Benjamin Franklin was big on civil service. His relationship with God was interesting, and he didn't fully believe in the Christian values because, especially at that time, there was all different religious leaders, and it was chaos when it came to religion during that time. But he definitely believed in civic duty and serving others, and that was the way to heaven, or whatever he may have believed. Have you heard of any attacks made on the liberties of people? You can already see in 1727, he's keeping an eye out on the citizens. He's known for sticking up for the middle class. The 4th one, have you observed any defect in laws or institutions that could be improved? Always looking for improvement, whether it's self or systems or organizations. Things I have a feeling these questions are not asked right now. Question number 5, what new habit or practice could improve your life or the life of others? Franklin understood something timeless. If you want to grow, build a room where growth is inevitable. Your environment shapes your evolution. And it's no telling why some of the greatest leaders came from these time periods, whenever an empire is being built, it always seems like the best leaders are in the beginning and then at the middle, and they always fall apart at the end, obviously. But the journey continues. Through this network, he's able to learn. He's able to be curious about all different things, whether it be public service positions, could be scientists, could be lawyers, doctors, medicine, whatever it may be. And the Junto is something that it would be awesome to start in my life. But another major milestone, and this ultimately leads to his financial freedom, which then allows him to accomplish everything he did in science with electricity. In 1729, he ended up opening his own print shop where he would go on to be the printer of Pennsylvania currency, the printer of so many different things, in charge of almost all of the printing in the U.S. as time went on. And this is how he gained, like I said before, his financial freedom. But that was not done first without adding all this value and building leverage through skill. He was not waiting to be chosen. He went out and got all of these things for himself for the betterment of others. And don't get me wrong, Benjamin Franklin admittedly did love the attention. It did stroke the ego. But when it comes to world leaders, founding fathers, he did a pretty good job of reeling it in. Also, want to put out there that I'm not saying Benjamin Franklin is this amazing human being. I'm saying he lived an incredible life that's worth studying. And he is, at the end of the day, one of the founders of this country whose life we can find in the current state of our country. But the most famous piece of writing he probably did was Poor Richard's Almanac. Again, this was sort of a plea to the middle class and that he would always be looking out for the working class people because he did not grow up with anything. And he actually, University of Pennsylvania that exists now, prior to it being UPenn, was the school that Benjamin Franklin built. And it is a take on the education system that would benefit today's education system a lot. It's more about public service. How can you serve others? What are the most useful skills to learn in order to serve others? And it's not as checklist oriented as it is sort of skill oriented, building skills, building leadership, building communication, all the things that made him successful. He wanted to put into a school that was not just the Harvards and Yales and all in the 6 other schools that were around at that time. He wanted to make it easily accessible for a lot of people, a struggle that we still face today. Oh yeah, also during the time of opening his own print shop, he started one of the first subscription-based libraries in America. So fun fact, next time you're at trivia, use that one because this is how he started to gain some traction across the colonies. People started to recognize who he was. Ultimately, it laid the groundwork for him being named the leader of basically the citizens' army when this time came, when they were getting ready to potentially fight a revolution that did not quite happen yet. Well, obviously, it happened later on, but the people thought very highly of him. And they thought highly of him because Benjamin Franklin was relentless in trying to make himself better. And this is one of the things that I want to start doing in my life. He always wrote down his beliefs, the 5 things he believed in the most every single year. He would go back, review the year, review if he still believed these things, and then switch it going forward. He was never rigid in it, but the goal was always the same, to become the best version of ourselves. He treated his character like a lifelong project, and this is one of the most productive men of all time, so he did not waste time. You see all of the things he accomplished across all genres of achievements, if that's how you want to say it. But he made the most of his time. It's a lot easier to get distracted now than it was back in Benjamin Franklin's time. But one of my favorite quotes from him too, dost thou love life? Then do not squander time, for that's the stuff life is made up. And he was definitely a man that did not squander time. And how do you get time? In this world, in that world, unfortunately, you get time through financial freedom, and that's what the printing shop was able to do for him. So then he decides to retire at age 42. He's still collecting checks from this printing empire that he created, but now he turns to the more curious side of his brain, and this is when he gets into science, invention, and public service. He was obsessed with electricity. He was running all of these different tests on it, and ultimately, the reason that we have positive and negative written on our batteries today is because of the experiments Benjamin Franklin did back then. Now, remember, the famous scientists at this time or people inventing things, it would be Isaac Newton who came before him. I'm not a science guy. I don't have all these guys' names down. But remember where Benjamin Franklin started. His dad was a candle maker. He moved to Philadelphia at 17, not knowing anybody. Then traveled over to London at 18 years old after getting screwed over by the governor of the state that he's living in. Opens his own print shop afterwards because he made the most of it. Crushes it so much he's able to retire. Then he wants to get into science, makes one of the most forward-thinking and society-serving discoveries in electricity. He creates an experiment that goes pretty much, back then, it would be considered viral, makes its way all the way over to London, to England, and he starts to become an international sensation because he was the first one to do this. And all of these scientists are also viewing him in this high esteem. And just, again, we're so malleable. We're able to accomplish so many things, but we box ourselves in because we go to school, we get the degree, and we let the degree tell us what we're going to do for the rest of our lives. But you change, and especially if you document it, you will notice your changes even more, and it will push you into the right direction that you were meant to be. And ultimately, that direction is trying to become the best version of yourself. Now, fast forward to 1757. Remember all this. I know it might sound like I'm saying a lot of different things, but Benjamin Franklin did a lot, and I'm trying to hit all of the highlights. The best thing you can do is go read this book by Walter Isaacson. It's long, but it's worth it. As you can see, the man lived 100 lives in one, and it's not over because he turns 51, and this is when he starts. He goes over to London on behalf of Pennsylvania. He had beef with the Penn family, and he was trying to explain to the royal government that they were not handling the colonies in the proper way. And at this time, Benjamin Franklin is a loyalist who wants to serve the parliament. He's not there to disrupt, to create, to lead a revolution. He wants what's best for the colonies, and he wants what's best for the kingdom. And ultimately, wanting what's best for both of them leads him towards the American Revolution and being a part of the Declaration of Independence. But he spent so much time over in London. Now, he went back and forth. He went back and forth the Atlantic 8 times total. Think about that. We don't want to get on the flight to go to London. That's 7 hours from Nashville. He did this 8 times in his 50s to 60s. He was over there. And it was an interesting time because he had sort of become discouraged with the way things were going in America, and he loved London. He loved the social life. He loved speaking with the scholars. He loved going to the universities and being recognized for all of his achievements. But the whole time, he's also still learning, still challenging himself, and still building relationships through value. And ultimately, experiencing all these things is what changed him. And that's such a lesson for us. None of this would have happened if he just would have stayed in Philadelphia as a printer. And he could have done this. Could have stayed as a printer his whole life, been there with his wife and kids, and everything would have been fine. He still would have been a great member of society, but he would not be the man that he is today if it wasn't for his love for travel and getting out there, experience new things, and being willing to accept new things. And the same exact things goes for us. We're never going to learn new things if we never go to new places and meet new people and be open to those things. He became a founding father because he was willing to change his mind. Think about that. We get so boxed in, especially in this political climate, that once you say one thing, that is what you live and die by. There's no room for growth. There's no room for education. As much as people want to throw some fluffy words out there, it's not the case. I wish it was the case. And it can be the case if that is how you lead your life. That's how I'm trying to lead my life. It's a common sense, but in today's world, it's almost rare wisdom. And another piece of rare wisdom, and something that Benjamin Franklin learned early on as well, was that passive strength is the key to achieving things over aggression. He succeeded most when he stopped being aggressive. He learned that force creates enemies and calmness creates allies. He softened his tone, he listened, and he gives us this quote: "Love your enemies, for they tell you your faults." Do you hear that? And do you really fully understand or believe you're living in a way that quote can relate to you, because the Bible says that love your enemies as you love your enemies, just like you love your neighbors. Benjamin Franklin, he's given his own rendition of it, and I love it because it's true. If you're not surrounded by, your best friends will tell you where your faults are and how to improve, but their enemies will tell you a whole lot faster and a whole lot more direct. And that is very key. It's not a weakness. You can use it as a strength. And Franklin's humility became his ultimate strength. His relentless curiosity was an ultimate strength. And through curiosity, it breeds humility, because you go into arenas that you're not an expert in, but you want to learn. And whenever you start out, you're a beginner. And being a beginner is never fun. It's never easy, but it's the one place that you have got to start. Where I am currently is he is about to head back to Philadelphia from London, and I assume this is where things are going to go south between him and the royal government in England, and this is when he's going to start grouping with the people to revolutionize the colonies and begin the quest for freedom from Great Britain. But what a life that Benjamin Franklin has lived. I hope this breakdown has helped you understand him more. Maybe it's helped you understand yourself more. I did my best. I know I tripped up on a few words, but I'm trying to read this outline that I wrote and that I've been researching. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about Benjamin Franklin. And I hope you tune in to, it probably won't be next week because I can't finish 300 pages between now and then. But I hope you tune in to part 2 to learn a little bit more about Benjamin Franklin's life. And hopefully it encourages you to go out there, try new things, remain curious, know that you are capable of doing so much in so many different arenas if you're willing to keep that humility with you, if you're willing to travel, do new things. Looking at his life is one of the reasons I get so frustrated when I'll hear somebody telling me that they're not happy with what they're doing, and then you suggest something, and usually that something is hard in order to switch what's going on, and they're so resistant towards it. I'm like, well, clearly it's not bad enough if you're not willing to change, because it is possible. This guy moved to Philadelphia at 17 years old and then turns into a founding father. Think about how far ahead we're able to be with just a little bit of focus, with the internet and information at the palm of our hands, so much faster than they had it back then. Think about what you're really capable of if you do focus on it, take notes on your beliefs, be willing to listen to other beliefs, be willing to listen to your enemies, and watch your life bloom in the way that Benjamin Franklin's did. And I'll close with this. When you look at Franklin's early life, you don't just see a founding father. You see a man building himself through writing, discipline, community, curiosity, travel, humility, and constant revision. Franklin did not chase greatness. He built it, one belief, one habit, and one conversation at a time. He walked into Philadelphia in 1723 as a nobody and became one of the founding fathers of this country. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Writing, discipline, community, curiosity, travel, humility, constant revision. We need to apply that to our lives. I need to apply it to my life, and I need it to be consistently showing up in my life. Thanks for listening to this episode. I will see you guys again next week. I'm going to try to get some more interviews out there, but stay tuned for that on Instagram or YouTube. Appreciate y'all, and see you next week.